you, and I'm going to turn it over to Michael to do a little presentation about Invoke. Microsoft trusted partner, and I've seen Invoke around many security events, so we'd love to hear a little bit about your capability and organizations in the Microsoft ecosystem.
Sure. Make some quick introductions before I get started.
Oh, yes, please.
Steven, you want to start? Sure. So we're with Invoke. We're Microsoft. That's all we do is Microsoft. So our primary focus is security. So as tonight, we're just going to do kind of a brief overview of how AI interacts with security. So our question, raise the hands, how many of you have to deal with security on your day-to-day jobs? So a good topic of discussion. I want you to associate Invoke fajitas. So if you haven't gotten fajitas, Invoke fajitas, Invoke security. As long as you make that triangular thing tonight, we're good. Steven, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Steven Lutold, I'm one of the co-founders of Invoke. We're actually grounded in the community. That's why it's very important that we support community events like this. We do put on a quarterly event called PASMA. We focus on Microsoft security. It's a full day event where it's a security across the board. So identity, threat, endpoint, secure AI. Michael's going to touch on that a little bit here shortly. But again, we've been doing this for 13 years. So anytime there's like a local event like this, we're getting together, supporting the community, educating, learning together. We love supporting these things. So thank you everybody for attending.
Kendall?
Hey, Kendall Acosta. Been with Invoke since January 5th, so week 3. So super excited to be with them. I was with Microsoft for 20 years and spent a lot of time here and really building our cloud business. And real excited to be with Invoke. I leveraged them for a good 5 years, helping my customers be successful. So great crew to work with and looking forward to tonight.
Thank you.
And I'm Michael Cassidy, also account executive, and again work with enterprise customers. Our primary focus has been with the either the strategics or the major market with enterprise. So again, we'll go over a little bit on how we interact with. Try to keep this focused on the topic, which is AI. So does this work? Only got 10 minutes, so I'll brush through this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on, you see that little circle, how does AI interact with your identity platforms? How does it interact with your data estate? How does it interact with your endpoint workstations estate, as well as your threat landscape? Here, just real quick, we were a 2025 Partner of the Year. So we were globally the Identity Partner of the Year for 2025. So again, really strong in identity. We're a top 10 Microsoft partner. I'm just going to hit some highlights. Again, we also were excellent award winners for both security services and data security trailblazer, data security and compliance trailblazer with the Microsoft MISA organization. Again, top 10 in the security from the perspective of number of workloads enabled for enterprise organizations. These are some of the organizations we deal with. We are a prioritized tier jumpstart partner, strategic fast track, also security partner, strategic security Copilot partner, security elite partner, and also EA security accelerate partner. So tons of opportunities to leverage our status as an enterprise organization, because we can step into funding programs and stuff that we have access to, either through the product team or through Redmond Program Management. So good to leverage us because we have access to funding programs that other partners may not have access to. These are the particular areas. We talked about that before. These are our areas of strength from a coverage perspective. So your endpoint estate, threat, data security and governance, AI business solutions, and identity management. So we'll talk just a little bit about interaction with AI and threat. So things to consider when using the Defender product: runtime protection, security posture management, attack path analysis, out-of-the-box threat detections, ability to create custom detections, agent inventory. Agents are big. Incident investigation, threat hunting. So we interact with all that, and we can move forward. Our offering is this: it's Threat Protection Accelerator. So we can go in, use some Microsoft funding. We have program set up with program management. We can use Microsoft funding. We can start looking at anything related to AI and threats that you would like to risk mitigate. Okay. Identity. Entra ID agents, right? Agents are going to be everywhere. They're not just service accounts anymore. They can reason, they can take actions, etc. So you got to inventory them. You've got to put together a register. You got to know what they're doing. You got to put a life cycle, just like a human. You got to put an identity life cycle together with them. So again, the ability to do that is where we're strong. Very much the same way you do human identity lifecycle management. Now you got agents that are going to be working side by side with the humans. Okay. And again, our threat protection, our identity and access management accelerator, we get into going through some of the proofs of concepts related to that. Okay. On data security side, we move forward. That's all about data security posture management. Is the data that agents are accessing, is it sensitive? Do you need to have it tagged? Do you need to protect it against agents being able to reason over it? All that stuff comes into play. So again, putting purview protections in place, putting compliance controls, putting data security posture management, inside of risk management. Now you got inside of risk management, not with just people, but now with agents. So again, another thing to consider. Okay. And again, our data security accelerator. That's our point of entry to be able to address some of these things with your data state. Endpoint management. Move forward. So Windows and Intune, hardware seller BitLocker, Windows Resilience Initiative, ring-based secure deployments, proactive OS updates, post-quantum cryptographic support. There's things that are coming from an endpoint perspective that you got to address from an AI perspective as well. Again, we have our accelerator.
All right. Forward.
There you go. So same thing, an entry point into addressing your device's state as well. Okay. And then Copilot Readiness Prescriptive Solution Overview, Copilot Readiness Assessment. So if you're starting with Copilot, again, readiness assessment, we go through data, we go through oversharing, we go through what data is being accessed by it. We go through all those things. Are you prepared from a foundational perspective to get into the AI journey? Here's a agentic AI blueprint. Again, as you see to the left, Copilot Chat, that's where a lot of people are using AI today. That moves into Copilot 365, where you got the graph behind it, and it's grounding on your corporate data, and it's staying inside the tenant. That moves to the Microsoft pre-canned agents that are out there that you can start to utilize immediately. Then you can get into Studio, start creating your own agents. And then from there, you can get into your AI Foundry and your Azure, where you're actually creating your own AI models within the environment for whatever purposes are business centric. And again, platforms need end-to-end security, and AI is no different. And their security code to runtime, Defender plus GitHub, right? So interaction of GitHub Advanced Security with Microsoft Defender. We can help you there. And then there's a security dashboard for AI that brings it all together. Okay? And that's it. Any questions on, again, think this. If you guys are doing AI, whether it's Copilot, whether it's building models, whether it's code, CD, CDI code, DevOps, whatever the case may be, AI is involved and you need a security partner, invoke fajitas.
We've done all the security work for you, and we've set the groundwork for that piece of it. Security may not be sexy, but it's the most important thing as you get into this. So.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you so much.
If you haven't gotten fajitas, get some because there's a ton of it.
I'm going to kick off with the presenter. We have a presenter tonight, Sean, Mike, and myself. I'm going to be looking at the agenda real quick. So here's the recording engagement. So you are in charge of your own breaks. So if you need to use the bathroom, you need to take a break, you're the boss. So it's a tight schedule for hours. Your lab is good for 12 hours. So after tonight, you're not able to finish. You have the ability to keep going until 12 hours in the morning. There are proctors in the room. If you need help, just raise your hand. Our proctor will be around. Chris Mullins here, Sean, Diego, myself, and Mike, and Vinny will also help. And Adam also can help you.
Yes, I can.
With any, difficulty with your labs. So these are the agenda, and there will be a Q&A at the end. You are welcome to start with your own lab. The instructions are self-explanatory. You're welcome to get a speed ahead. And for those of folks online, if you have any question or difficulties, please also just chat or raise your hand. We will get to you as well. So right before we start, I just wanted to have a little bit of a survey. I'm curious in terms of where are you in terms of your AI adoption journey, or some of the framework you're using. If you would please spend a minute just kind of humor us to kind of understand where you are in terms of your AI, GenAI capability and approach to.
Yeah, is it something you guys are using officially at work? What are those tool shades like?
Right.
If it's something you guys are using
And what are
not
some
at work,
of the
but like as hobbies?
Right. What do we get? And where do you start though? And what kind of roadblocks you see, right? Human being, us, or a minute, and we will see live results. This event didn't work, let me know.
We're stuck.
Yeah.
Well, Kim's still got some stuff to go through, and we're gonna go through that. Yeah. Okay, and everything, right?
Well, actually, yeah, I'm gonna go through the slide, the intro, and then if you start with the lab, raise your hand, Diego, and then as well as Chris can go help you, and Matt. Vin is one of the rules here, and so is, if you have a MacBook, I think Mike and Chris is your guy to go to. I don't know that.
See if there's an email or something like that. You're stuck 1 second. Did you register? Email.
Mike, you
Yeah.
can get online.
Oh, and then log in.
Right, so these are the ones we go, I think it's stopped and move it back. Thank you for taking the survey. So let us dive into the GitHub Copilot really quick. What is it actually? Sorry, I'm going to be
It takes a
talking
couple.
on the slide deck, but for those of us that want to start with the lab have difficulties, please just raise your hand. There are proctors walking around will help you, but I will be talking about the concept, what GitHub is, what a coding agent is, and why we use it, and how we use it to scaffolding into GenAI.
Yeah, you click in that, and then there's no way to sign in, right?
Yeah,
So let's dive a little bit into what GitHub Copilot is. It is an AI power coding assistant that's built into GitHub, right? How many of us out here are actually using GitHub? Awesome. Wow, developers? Any developers, or you guys are just non-developers?
I used GitHub back in COVID days. It was great.
That's fantastic. And as you know, GitHub is really working collaborative with OpenAI to develop code. And underneath the hood, really it's actually using GPT, I think 4.0. To power and help developers to write code faster, and intelligently actually predict and or fill in auto-fill some of the coding, so it's not going to tell you what to do. So you actually have to accept the code and check it, right? So even if it's there, you making a decision. So it reduces the repetitive tasks, and it actually recognizes coding patterns up to 250 words for word choice, and it's improving the coding efficiency. So it directly integrates into your
things that are happening.
development environment, like your VS Code, right? As well as Vim, and those of us use what's it called? IntelliSense. It's another coding in person. So I'll watch that is out there. So it's essentially analyzing your file and do context based on the file that it's actually in your folder, so it doesn't inject and or work on non-context related to your file. And it accelerates and help you explore unfamiliar libraries and frameworks and reduce time spent on writing intelligent code or having syntax problem and or example, right? And as we move through the workshop, you see how Copilot actually handles everything from small refactoring to all the way to generating new code and components and explaining what it really means and what it actually means. So I'm going to move forward. So this slide's a little bit animated. I'm going to click through it. But here is the visual, your code editor. So how many of you have code editor open? This is what it looks like, and I'm going to open mine so you can kind of see as well. Drag a little bit, and let me see. This is mine. For those of us online, you probably see that, right?
Yeah, we can say it again.
Okay,
Online.
perfect. So this is my code editor. To my left, there are files that get generated by GitHub Copilot, or I have to initiate a new file if I have different projects, right? And to your extreme left, those are the Copilot check window. That's actually your coding assistant right there. And underneath here, you have different mode that would allow you to safely ideate. Let's say I start with an idea, I don't know what it is, right? I would ask the agent first to give me a framework and to validate what my idea is, and sometimes my idea is off. There's an edit in the plan as well. The agent is your actual agent, coding agent, is going to execute that for you. So as we go through this, we will see the capability later, but this is what it actually looks like.
Can we maybe dim the lights a little bit?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Black on that plane. Very soon.
So Copilot, to make sure that we have Copilot everywhere. So what the heck is it? The M365 Copilot is not related to GitHub. GitHub is your own personal AI assistant, right?
Okay.
M365 Copilot is dedicated to the M365 data. It's in SharePoint, it's in your notebook, Word, Excel. But GitHub Copilot is not M365. Just to be clear, they're two separate ecosystems. Don't ask me why.
It's a little bit of a misnomer that we at Microsoft use Copilot for a bunch of different things, but like Excel Copilot that you see in Excel is different than the Copilot that is included in Word or within GitHub Copilot. They are actually all different models and specialized to specific areas. So you're not talking to the same one. We have bridges that will connect and access data from all sorts of areas within the office or the M365 suite, but those are kind of the supervisors that allow to reach across the graph.
And the connector I talk about is Word ID. That's your connector. It's using graph. So you will connect from different services. We're not covering that tonight, but that's just kind of hinting that we have the connectors. We make sense of it all because they are multiple topics of Copilot. So what is it? Why are we having requirements? There's an answer to that, right? So we all know that Copilot uses a transformative model. So for example, think of something like Google Translate. You put something in Word in English, the Google Translate hasn't seen you exact sentences that they're gonna sound like this. But it can understand and define the definition as well as predict the pattern, the language pattern, whenever there's a subject and the direct object, and give you the based on your input and it suggests an appropriate result. So you could think GitHub Copilot as one of your translation tools in terms of coding, right? Not like using natural language, we can code. So that's the beautiful thing of it. This is not unique to GitHub Copilot, but this is one of the capabilities. It will write you normal coding. But having said that, it's looking for a pattern that is repetitive many times. It's intelligent enough to recognize that, and also it detects open source code outside of your context and limit your ability to kind of, how do you say it, copy, like, plagiarize it, right? Like,
Right. So if you guys remember early on, there was a lot of controversy in general, just like there is with a lot of AIs, what it's trained on, and what the impacts are of who owns what with Copilot, given there's a lot of open source code. From an organizational perspective, when we deployed GitHub Copilot at an org level, we isolated access to not pull open source code if it's not desired, and no code or suggestions leave the tenant of the enterprise. And then I think telemetry for coding has to be on.
that's correct. And what it is the Copilot team created IP filter for just that, and it's limited to 150 words. By the way, if you're taking a Copilot exam or a GitHub Copilot exam, that is one of the question exam about 2 weeks back we set for it. So that's another IP filter that detects the code that are in the matching public code. We limit to 150, no more than that. Character, by the way, not word, but characters.
Yeah, meaning like you're not gonna say like public way to make pull an entire application from autocomplete from there, right?
Yeah. So moving on, so this is the life cycle of GitHub Copilot in your integrated development environment. So it's essentially this slide breakdown, actually what happened behind the scene when Copilot generates suggestions. So when you're typing in your editor, like your VS Code or Cursor or they send the contextual information such as your surrounding code and your recent changes to Copilot services. And this data is held only in memory, it's never written to disk. And the reason why is to ensure privacy and security during the interaction. And that information passes through a lightweight proxy in the little blue block thingy, right? So the proxy job is to securely relay your prompts to the IDE, which is your integrated environment, so that you have Copilot model handle encryptions, requests, formatting, routing to the correct model. And earlier, did you see, I forgot, yes, sir.
Like you have your own code base, right?
Yes.
So you will have some LLM for your own code base, I believe, right?
No.
No?
So it can be scoped, so the models, so GitHub Copilot, you can select from, I don't actually know the current amount of models that we have available, but the model that is running inside that GitHub Copilot and has access to the repository or organization doesn't leave, but it isn't like a customized deploy into your tenant GitHub Copilot model. Because GitHub itself is a global service. What it does is it does not leave your tenant's like scope, and that anything that's deployed into, say, Azure DevOps or any of the repositories it's being given privy to, it uses for context and for suggestions. But there isn't like a specific model where you're deploying, like anyone has to maintain or deploy updated models to use it.
But if the concern is, are they seeing my data, my code base, and training on my data?
Correct.
Absolutely
Most of-
not.
We'll get to that in the
Right,
next
yeah.
slide.
Oh,
Sorry, I
sorry,
misunderstood.
I'm leading the way.
That's-
No, that's perfect.
Absolutely not. So none of the data is, or code, especially if it's proprietary IP. We understand the majority of our customers are, the largest companies in the world down to, a couple of small people in shops. None of that is reused to train the larger models, so you're not improving anyone else. And those models are tuned and trained within our internal boundaries before they're deployed out. They don't communicate back to us when they're being used and they're deployed. So
Your data is yours.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to ask that question in a way that will you be using our data to train your model? Rather, I was actually in order for this code to generate some code, which is actually in addition to whatever we already have it, right?
right.
Building upon that code, right? So it would need to know
Yeah.
knowledge of that code,
It
basically.
has context. So
It's just the context.
if the context that we give it, and by we, I would mean you within your organization, is if it has privy or the license to kind of view and kind of use multiple repositories from the organization for context, whether it pulls that in, or it could be locked down to a specific repository and not have any way to.
The Java team can only see, its context only includes the Java
Right,
project
and
in
if
the
you're, say
repo.
you're a Java shop and you have a brand new repository and you say we want a new app that does this, it's not gonna randomly start spinning up Python and
Yeah.
Rust and do it that way, because it looks at the patterns and architectures that are common to your organization, and it's gonna use it and it's gonna infer that that's what you're looking for.
Gotcha. So
And then there are ways, I think it's like a dot GitHub Copilot instructions. It's some hidden file similar to like a git ignore that can be checked into repositories and used as kind of like coding standards for organizations. So anyone who clones that repository within your organization is automatically inheriting the file that GitHub Copilot can use to further refine how it should be interacting with your code, its standards. You can even, in that, you can provide external links to like, hey, this is Microsoft best practices, this is what we follow. Use this repository as a gold standard. We require test cases for X, Y, and Z%, and it can pull all of that. But to answer your actual question is, it pulls context from the repositories that it's given. So if you're starting from a blank slate and you say like, hey, like let's, with no context, it may spin up a solution in Python Blast, but very quickly you can be like, hey, I would like to see this in .NET, it will switch. Or as part of your prompting, in the technical specifications document, which is part of this lab, you'll see at some point, you specify the business requirements, the software development requirements, the technical requirements for the application, the architecture patterns, and it's just a bunch of markdown files that it ingests and it uses to inform its architecture designs and its implementations. So whereas you aren't necessarily always going to need to write every line of code anymore if you don't want to, you absolutely can. But what makes the usage of GitHub Copilot more successful is approaching it as a tool that you need to elevate yourself and your thinking to be a more systems level, more of like a senior or an architect level of here's how I want these components to be developed, here's how we're going to microservices architecture, and having that stuff planned out front just lets it rip through.
So can I repeat what I understood how it is? Did you mean that your code is going to be converted into Siri, like a lot of related context?
By context, I mean it
Like a
looks
weights
at
and
the
vectors?
repository to see like here's how functions are always defined, here's their commenting style. They can even see it's like, okay, these are all monolithic applications, they're probably gonna want more monolithic. Here's the tech stack that's being used, like
Those-
Spring.
Yeah, those contexts are going to be in the form of weights and vectors, LLM vectors. No.
It just I hate to say this because it's like it just does it, but it just does it.
Okay, gotcha.
And you can
Due to the interest of time, I wanted to quickly go through the life cycle really quick, and if you need to like deep dive further,
Okay.
I mean, just send
Okay,
us
yeah.
direct message.
I mean yeah.
You got my email, you got me now.
I'm online literally all the time.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
appreciate that.
Yeah, we can chat later too as well.
So the entire life cycle you look in here, just really quick, is that it decided no code is like store, and no training occurred from your private code. Your code is yours, right? And all the information remains ephemeral. What I mean is long enough to generate suggestion, and that was it. So the key point here is Copilot, GitHub Copilot is secure. You have to keep your code private as well. It's giving you the suggestion as an AI assistant, right? With your permission and or enhance your capability to develop them. So that in a nutshell. But I wanted to go ahead and give you that. And there are different GitHub features here that give you the capability across your development lifecycle workflow. So I don't want to break this slide really too much, but it provides real-time code suggestion directly to your IDE. And as you type, it predicts. It's trying predict what you're trying to do and offer the contextual completion based on your environment or the file. You can also force feeding it or directly pipes the context within your IDE environment so that it's remain within that boundary. And then you can chat with Copilot for coding help, and then ask questions exploring idea, like I was saying earlier, with different modes within Copilot. And you can also request explanations directly with your editor. I don't understand this code, just tell me what is it doing, and can we do it different way, right? And it's work on command line. You don't have to do it within the ES code. Pretty much add command line, fix errors, and run shell command as well through natural language processing, right? And then it also generates pull requests and description, automatically write your README file, pushing for saving developer time or to ensuring that consistent document of the change, and it's you can tell it which brand it can be pushing to, and don't merge, by the way, until what about their conflict, right? So and there are many different licensing for pro, business, and enterprise, and if you are business and pro. It worked directly with your own coaching, even all of create pull requests. And by the way, those licensing are protected in terms of business capability that your data will remain within your we don't use it to train. So that's just confirmed. Again, your code is your code, and that's your data. So in short, it's more than just an auto completion agent and or assistant. It's a full stack AI assistant that help you develop, review, collaborate, and ship the code out.
It's way more of like working with it as like a co-developer or in like more of a collaborative mindset is how I found the most success. I also have like that trait where I'm just really nice with them just in case. But yeah, it picks up on things that you told it, what you've given it access to. If it doesn't, if there is no context that it's given to, if there's no example repositories or anything like that, it'll just do its best based on the model it has. But as far as like customizing for like Copilot instructions, what we found is that's something that usually like the software, like lead software devs of an organization, like that from different teams will kind of come together. And they'll use that to kind of as a like as a kind of a council determine how they want their standards to be, and how they want GitHub to behave. So they'll work on developing those like Copilot instructions together. And sometimes it's broken out by team. Obviously, the data engineering team will have a different set of requirements and standards than the web UI team.
So I want to quickly get through this. The two licensing model here that I want to bring that is, you can read that very self-explanatory. But Copilot for business and for the enterprise. Enterprise is built specifically for large enterprise and organizations that already get at an enterprise file level. It's include everything. So from security to governance to compliance and feature capability, and there are flexible assignment of business and enterprise licenses as well. So I'll leave it there. Not as interesting to me, unless you wanted to dive deeper. We have salespeople that wanted to do that. I'm here to dive into the technical, so we wanted to quickly get through some of the visual of how to get started with GitHub Copilot inside the VS Code. So
yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, so have you guys, has everyone who's working and wants to get their hands on been able to get into the lab environment for VM?
I think there was some problems with the invitation where people couldn't get in.
Oh, I know. I need, if you have not been able to get in, click on the attend event and you don't see a way to log in or anything like that, and you're still having.
Raise your hand if you have that issue.
Well, that's way more than before that like that. If you can send your name into the chat that we have for this meeting in Teams, our guy.
How do we get that?
Oh, that makes total sense. Okay. Well, there should be a Teams invite for this that from the
yes. Could you all go to the data user group? There's a team invite. The meetup.
I didn't receive an invite.
That seems to be the theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we form briefly a single file line at your desk and knock this out in the next 3 minutes?
Love it.
Yeah. Or email you, Mike. If you put your email up on the screen, it'll be easier for everyone to email you.
Let me.
That'd be easier, I think, than trying to join the Teams meeting
Or
and
can I
have
get a
speakers
piece of
on.
paper and have you write your email down?
We could write it on the board up there. Look.
Oh yes. There we go.
My apologies.
So the mic, right?
It's
I'm not really
the
fun
test.
email.
There it is. Who even writes anything?
You want
Send it to me. Send it to me. It's just mfelder@microsoft.com, and I'm gonna get it over to Abdul.
Is it one L, right?
You're doing great, yeah. At Microsoft, and it's not like Microsoft, it's MyCO. Yeah, you're very good. So email me really quickly.
Felder.
I'll get the names over.
Felder. Can you guys see it all the way over there?
I can write it. I'll write it over there.
Mfelder.
Okay, now I know it sounds like I'm in trouble. Felder.
Sorry, it is mess. There's a lot of difficulty there.
Is that seriously only like? We'll get there, yeah, guys. But if you also want to come up here and just tell me your name. Yes, all right, let's do this.
So what should they expect? They'll get an invite to a meeting?
Yeah, then they'll be able to just type in each email address.
You got a link to a letter, and then just
Yes.
put the,
So what should happen is you should get that email back.
So those folks,
And what we have earlier is those links were not live until we got started. So you click that event and log in with the username and password, whichever Microsoft.
So if they have that email, will it work? It might. That's the problem. It might.
But what should happen is you log in. If you're not prompted to log in, you just see generic kind of like, hey, this will be fun. If you do log in, you'll see the lab
that
is
file,
present,
then you say,
and you'll see like what you're registered for, and then that's where you can hit launch lab. If you guys want to give me your email addresses, type them or email me, I'll get them over.
Mfelder@microsoft.com.
just email them.
Yeah, good chat. There are dozens of us. Yeah, they gave me a system somewhere that they couldn't learn all the way.
Did we email it?
Okay, I think we have like a different option that we'll get a lot quicker.
Okay, so I don't this should be So I'm just reading those email I got, right? When I click on the tin bed,
all the spot marks.
Oh, yeah.
And it does something to actual code.
That's the sign in.
Right chat transformation. And then they can't do it. It's all like a wait. That's actually
All right, everyone loves a good bit.ly link. So if you can hit that bit.ly link, unfortunately, it's not like the good old akka.ms quick file. Put it there. Yeah. So punch that in and then use that, register with your email address and use that activate code. That activate code will start the process of provisioning the VMs that you guys just never saw. And that's 4Q capital H X 9JN.
Take a picture.
And then activate.
Okay, I think we have like a different option that we'll get a lot quicker.
Yeah.
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 I
it bigger, Kim?
Using the whole screen, says the old man.
All right, bold.
Me, the old man. Not you. Not bold. Use the whole screen, Sean. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. You can just, on a Mac, you just do this with your fingers. Does that not work on a Mac, Microsoft like that?
Yeah, they have touch screens, I love the touch screens.
I think we can do that.
Thanks for being patient with us, though. We're sorry.
Appreciate you guys.
No live demo ever goes.
All right, so you got sure.
That's planned.
That's right.
You can use.
Sorry.
Not only can you use your email you've already used, or you can use different ones. If you use an email you already have used, it may be like, but it won't. If you use that email, it's a deal. Activate 5976 for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yes, we're ready. Hold it up. Like, it's stand up. Yeah, no, they get a full can.
That's correct.
All
So,
of the.
so-
How many hours do you do?
Every day.
$15.95 value.
That's what.
Once you're in, you
This goes off like without any hitches. That's what makes this great. Is like there isn't like a hey, you have to install all and all the instructions for the and you can use the instructions.
This is usually that.
Yeah, and you'll also see that like at one point.
Yes, I think it's good for 4 hour minimum, and the rest I don't know yet, because I think what you gotta get is a non-attendees and instructor. With us, which is really good. Those are instructor labs, good for 4 hours.
So the problem with the instructor or the lab?
The people who run the lab, they give a wrong, so.
Is anybody still not in? Raise your hand. Screaming yes.
What you want to do is you're also going to be
It's faster.
provision.
Yeah, okay. Then another, we're probably the slides, we have a visual and idea. My lab is up, probably just that.
I can see VM screens. Yeah, look at that.
It's like an Alex, it tells you 20 minutes, but it doesn't.
I'm hearing that it's taking actually much less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll do the
Oh,
first
two or
thing.
three.
Really fast.
Yes. Someone opened a spigot somewhere.
Yeah,
somebody
no promises,
opened a
but
money spigot got cranked.
okay. 2 to 3 minutes sounds like.
There it is.
Yeah, look at that. Okay. I think that's the under promise, over deliver.
Better be on.
Unlock your Uber car tracking. It's forever 3 minutes away for like 25 minutes.
Can I ask you a simple question? What sub-chapter is?
So once you enter the lab, starting there's a VS Code, there's a, you know, you can get
So
a platform.
when I ask
And then
questions,
you can set up Copilot, right? What it looks like is you get into the Git. And then you create a repository.
Speak up a bit. Yeah, it was chatting. Go ahead.
So make sure that you guys are like, this is a slide where when you start using Copilot in GitHub, via VS Code, we actually get set up through a credential. And sign in through your lab provision credential. This is done, everything is automatically started. Alright, and then.
So this slide actually walk through how do we use the Copilot chat window inside of VS Code. So this is bringing up a dedicated chat panel where you can interact with Copilot conversationally using NLP. When Copilot provides a code suggestions in the chat window, you have multiple ways to use it depending on your workflow. You can copy and paste the suggestion directly from the chat, and you can also insert a link into a new file. It is helpful when generating a new component scripts. Or you can preview the suggestion in your current file using the diff view as well. So think of the chat window as your conversational hub. It is perfect for explorations, learning, and iterating on idea before you make any changes. So this is what I look like. And as you can see on the red little box on the bottom, say agent, and right next to it, those are different models that your GitHub Enterprise Administrator subscribe to or allow to have. So in my case, I have a different view altogether. So you can see I have a lot of different models here. Opus, Claude, Codex, Gemini, I have everything that is available because my GitHub Enterprise Administrator allow that. In your lab, I think you see all of it. All right. So next slide, really quick. The inline chat view is kind of interesting here. So this slide focuses on the inline chat experience, one of the fastest ways for you to interact with Copilot directly inside your editor terminal. The inline chat allows you to ask contextual questions right where you're working, right? Instead of switching to a separate chat panel, you can stay in the flow and get immediate help tied to the exact code you're looking at. So you can launch the chat quickly by using a couple of shortcuts like Control-I or Control on a Mac OS. You can do like CMD plus I, and it's very quickly. It's ideal for quick refactorings, explanation, or generate edits without breaking your momentum.
I think I'm probably the weird one. I don't ever do that.
Really?
I don't ever do that. I know it's like Gary. I used to just like have everyone chat with it or yell at it. But it is great for like highlighting a function and just being like, what are we doing?
Right, and you can accept or reject it, right? I mean, it's
Most of the time you end up rejecting it. That's my experience.
Yeah. No, I like, we let it run. It's really good at writing unit tests. Yeah, especially if you can define that. No one likes writing unit tests. I think I've written like 4 by choice ones. But as you kind of work through it, you guys will see. So in the sample application that you guys are working with, to try to get things going, you provision like an OpenAI endpoint for summarization of articles and things like that. And if anything goes amiss, you can literally just highlight it and be like, hey, this is what blew up in the terminal. What's going on? Have many of you guys used like GitHub Copilot before, or like Cursor? It's okay if you have done more Windsor.
Hello?
I won't judge. Claude Code, so hot right now.
Okay.
Is
Wait,
that a-
thank you.
Is it Marcio?
I think it's Claude. It's dapper.
What are you talking?
No, it's just it's.
All right.
How secure is, I have 4 AI products, and I'm still not sure that I can put it public, so I'm keeping it in private repo. But private repo, I see that it's not very secure, right? Public repo, there is protection. But I'm also debating whether to put it in public. What is your thought?
You're saying there's more protection in the public repo than the private ones?
That's what it said when I was creating.
I do it again. Yeah, I'm on that, yes. It's, I mean, private is, that's definitely private, especially for private projects, or like things that you're still kind of like tinkering with. I keep majority of my stuff private until it's ready. I do a lot of work where, a lot of my repositories are like proof of concepts for customers, or like, hey, here's how you use PowerShell for that. And I kind of use them as kind of guides. So when they're like ready, show them like
But I think the industry is shifting now. Everybody wants to see what's your. There's no resumes anymore, right? They want to see the work. What's your GitHub? So that is. So that's why I wanted to go over it, but I'm also unsure. You know.
I mean, it's like to what end? It's like, I mean, I've been in technology for 10 years. I've never had anyone ask to see.
But I think lately I'm seeing a lot of folks.
Yeah, you're busy with everything else, I didn't want to interrupt you.
And your HDE. I think it depends.
Wow, yes.
If it's like a requirement, like, I mean, we've done, in my past life, like, we've done or like, hey, here's a problem, like, how would you solve it? Push it to your GitHub.
Okay, so apparently I've got a
I think
virtual
that things private, obviously if you've got a GitHub organization, you should make a repository visible. It's an index organization, private.
I have a work
Oh, it's not ready yet. It doesn't work. I don't want it like on the public GitHubs.
and all the rest of the protected children level.
Second time we've been doing this today.
Just want to make sure it's a secure system. I don't want any other participants in the sandbox throwing sand at it.
We didn't do, so we do like,
Sounds good.
like the OGE, like my team does like,
There was.
yeah, this is all virtual. We do it versus like on OGE patch. This is the first one I've done. This is the first.
So while Kim's working with, and then just to be a quick question, show of hands, how many of you are software developers?
Is it running?
How many of you are infrastructure folks? No infrastructure folks. Okay, there's a little bit of both. How many of you are knowledge workers? You're pushing spreadsheets for a living, or write Word docs? No. What do you do?
Knowledge graphs, ontologies, methodologies.
Okay. Oh, very interesting place to be these days with AI. Hot developing area in terms of memory. All right, Kim, tell me when to shut up so that I was just stalling for you. So
I like it. We can talk about that. Just keep going. You guys, anyone having trouble or anything?
I think for this particular slide, it's capturing the most familiar and widely used capability with Copilot is the open fiction, right? The published on the auto completion guide here, and it suggests typing side is important ID, like VS Code and GenAI and others. It's not my traditional auto-complete Copilot analyze your file, right? It's an NLP. It's common to offer more of intelligence, provide kind of like an instructional comment, and this suggestion can include entire function to scaffold, database query, loop, conditional. So the real value here is efficiency. Copilot remove the repetitive typing, it reduces the time spent searching for syntax, and keep you in the flow while performing.
yeah, that's the problem.
And as a developer, you can always accept or reject or modify those conditions. You have to take it, right? And you are in control. So you want to do that, and that capability will become Copilot. Now, in the ask mode, earlier I showed a couple of modes that we can play with in the ask mode. The mode that you often use the most when you want explanation or guidance to help understand. That's what the ask mode is. So the purpose here is to design asking coding questions, exploring the concept or understanding the code. So how do you access that? You can open the chat window on, that little button. I'm not sure where yours are, but the chat window, there's a little drop down menu. And simply choose to ask from the chat mode and
Which is great, because it's changing so fast.
So my window here is, it's so tiny though. There you go. So this little choice menu for the ask mode, right? The agent mode and the menu. So here's
Open Edge browser.
So in that mode, you type your natural language question directly, and things like show me an example of how to use this library. And you can inject additional context like a code base or a file name that you already have in the directory with a pound.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is.
Right?
So
And that means the Copilot is tailor and accurate responses.
thank you. I knew it
It's
was
helpful
something because
in large projects or when you're working across multiple.
Subscribe to that.
All right, so we're on the next slide. So the edit mode is a bit different. The purpose of this mode is designed for more file editing and manufacturing. It allows Copilot to apply structures across the entire code with one file. So in here, it is really ideal when you want to update patterns or improve the structures in your file, right? Or modify multiple files consistently. The context here is you can provide additional scope by tagging with a count, code base, code bases, or referencing a specific file. And that helps Copilot to understand which part of your project to modify and which you have to specify instead of edits. So that's in short of the edit mode. So overall, edit mode is your go-to when you use Copilot to make and coordinate structured changes across the project and not just a single file, but multiple files. The agent mode is a very, very powerful one because Copilot is your AI separate agent. It's not just a model computer, it's actually using the full context of your project and allows you to understand.
Yeah, so we've got 3 different modes at least in the last level that we ask, edit, and agent.
Correct.
Ask, we added plan, great. Agent will take out tasks, command, like open up terminal, run commands for you. It doesn't actually do the app, so you can be like, start the web server, or set it out, and it can do that. Whereas ask and edit will just make changes to the code and not look at broader objects. Yes. It's like cool that you cool to do this. Just like body. It does on certain things, like if something I've asked the agent to do entails editing in an environment variable file, there's certain types of files that it's like.
Question? Once I'm into GitHub, I then get prompted again with a Microsoft sign-in. Is that back to my Azure credentials?
No, it should be your GitHub credentials.
Again, for a second time.
Again.
Yeah, after logging into GitHub successfully, then we now see a Microsoft sign-in.
Yeah, and that one is the account at the top.
the Azure credentials at the very top.
So to go back to the original ones.
Yes, those.
Yeah, I just had to tell this. I remembered something being weird about it, because the GitHub credentials are different. So you punch in the GitHub username.
We have the story proof that telling us I want to see.
You struggling to get on the Wi-Fi? That attendee code? You're in? Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's me. What do you need? Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
I hope I can hear that.
Yeah, that one is, my coworker Chris McKee, who's like our cloud solution architect, that's like a Savant, pointed that out probably 2 weeks ago, or maybe just before the holiday.
So they could have
Kobe.
Yeah. Should be able to show us.
None of the things that I've touched.
Yeah, same direct, but it's more than half.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys have all of those models?
Almost all of this. We have
It should not.
We have, so you imagine all of them. And the way that that's handled is like admin, GitHub Copilot admin panel.
Yeah.
You're making companies.
Yeah, I didn't ever show this out, but
Yeah, and
I'm not sure what their criteria is, like,
there's some costs is absolutely part of it.
Like if I'm, and that's, I have access to it, that process with
All right, so we're going to talk about the coding agent in GitHub Copilot. Or you only got
Because what I was thinking,
tomorrow when I log in, check how speak right.
So we are covering the coding agent. So the coding agent is essentially an autonomous AI developer. It is hosted by GitHub and using standard Copilot, which suggests code inside the editor. The agent can actually take action independently inside the isolated environment. So essentially, you can also bypass it as well. It's going to be checking your permission. Can I do this? So after some time, it gets really annoying. Like everything is like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I ask you permission? Sometimes it's get really annoying. But it's for your own good, right? Yeah, it depends. All right. So some of the destructive thing that you wanted to do, then go right ahead. But I'll be cautious about that. It's dangerously guarded, in my opinion.
I think at an organizational level, there's a way that like they won't be able to like disable or let Copilot rip off code and wget and things like that, which are at a certain level.
Yeah.
But like so far, what we've talked about tonight and what you guys have been playing with is GitHub Copilot, like the agent that's running within VS Code or Visual Studio or JetBrains. I mean, but tons of other ones.
Ryder?
Where we're at now is like the GitHub Copilot coding agent is one that is like lives. So if your organization or you use GitHub as like your repositories and project management, not even necessarily project management, but it can be The GitHub Copilot coding agent lives on GitHub.com.
Correct.
It's the one that you can delegate tasks and have it work on PRs, and kind of do a lot of that managerial, or just go do things for you without even opening an IDE. You can, I think that's more of a smart thing, but.
So I want to make sure I answered a question a moment ago correctly. By default, is this coding agent going to inherit my intra permissions? Or does it have its own different permissions?
Great question.
My gut says that it does not inherit your permissions.
Okay.
Because, but it shouldn't be able to do anything that you cannot. So I guess it's not like it's assuming your identity, but if you're a reader on our repo, and you can't just go and be like.
So the specific question
hey,
was,
bud, can we check this out? And it's like I can because
I have
you're
the
asking me.
ability as a user to edit the GitHub Actions environment variables. Does this agent also have that ability?
Yes.
So it has the permissions you have.
I got it.
Only if it's the cloud agent, not the
The ones in the settings section of the GitHub Actions, where you can secure those environment variables.
So you're saying if you have permission, then you can do it?
Yes.
So it can do, it's an agent, so it can do things on your behalf, but it doesn't supersede permission.
Correct. Correct. It can how does it assume or mimic my ability.
Impersonate, I think is the word.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but if it doesn't check in, it's not gonna be like, you audited it, it's gonna say, like, your GitHub Copilot requested by you, right?
Correct.
So no matter what we say, that's probably the default setting, and whether you call it a feature or a bug, one of the great things about Azure is infinitely configurable. So the real answer is it depends on what your organization has set up. And so that's really the right answer. You probably should, we could probably tell you what the defaults are,
Administrator.
but you need to go talk to your Entra folks to understand how it's configured in your environment.
Your GitHub Copilot.
Or your, yes.
You can
Because
help.
they have their own admin panel. I try to avoid the independence answer since I don't think it's all of that.
So question is, when you log in to GitHub Copilot with your GitHub account information, are you giving it access only to the project or your entire GitHub, all your repositories?
That is controlled by the GitHub administrator.
That's controlled by what?
Excuse me?
Sorry, repeat that again?
So that is controlled on the admin portion of the GitHub Copilot. Like
We have a resource at our disposal that can answer all of these
the
questions.
guy that is like doling out whether or not you have a
Oh, you
license
mean
or not
small.
has the ability to
For
like
Copilot.
and then you can also add like restrictions to specific repositories. Like I would assume finance is not super cool with it just right out the gate, so they don't want any of their banking apps to be looked at. So it can be scoped. It does not immediately just be like, haha, they logged in, I've got it all.
Where is this admin account?
It's for the, it's in the GitHub admin page right there. So there's usually only like one or two people in the organization that have access to it. It's kind of like an Entra admin where it's like, there's a couple guys and, you hope they're both on vacation. But it's not a like setting that you can go and change or unless that user is that power user. Even then, we do have blocking.
See, that doesn't, I'm not sure how that will work, because if you're a large organization, you probably have hundreds of thousands of users, right? So the core admin is going to be not sleeping at all, he has to respond to every part, he has to look after all of these things. So it seems it's more like a team-based thing that is used.
It seems like a what?
More team-based or at an individual developer level, what access.
Sure. There isn't like, so if I log into the organization, so first of all, the GitHub code base really has like these primary capabilities for now, at the very least. You can't just let it rip. And it is more, like I talked about earlier, what we use for the word Copilot, like it says GitHub Copilot, but this agent, this instance of this model is different than the one you guys are using currently in this lab. So its capabilities are very different than what yours can. Then there's also GitHub Spark, which is way more like a blank slate, like I have a wild idea, and it's like, let's iterate, and the GitHub.com starts just spinning out stuff to show you what it could be. It's more of like an ideation skill. But it can really kind of help you with the maintenance of working within GitHub.com, but it's not like a full-fledged ribbon like Flutter goes through. That being said, is like if I have admin privileges over a team, and that means I've inherited or I oversee like admin privileges over a set of repositories, I can go to GitHub Copilot Agent and ask to issue PRs or make changes to something that I personally don't have access to. But it isn't, I don't view it as an impersonation either, where it's inheriting my permissions. It's just checking my permissions of what it can and can't do.
Correct. I wanted to
Sorry,
build
I'm far
on
away.
that really quick. So, in short, GitHub Copilot cannot impersonate your Entra ID permission. What it does is that it's using your GitHub credential, not the Entra ID. Just wanted to clear that really quick. So it used the GitHub Copilot identity. So when you go here, let's see. It's really a great security question though.
That really is, like, I've been on dozens and dozens of calls, getting my brain picked about what organizations want to like migrate or adopt this, and no one's asked that
So
question.
you can see here,
Sure, you've got
it's
something.
using my GitHub credential, right? And it's working within the boundary of that. So it
I've been
does
happy to do
not
that, but everyone's just like,
using my credential to elevate and or change what I cannot do. It is at within the contained permission boundary.
does that make sense?
So I just learned something new. So the agent actually works in its own environment and has a limited permission set in that environment. So even if you have your access to environment variables and GitHub Actions, it does not, and it wouldn't matter if it did because it's not in that environment. It's in its own isolated workspace. And the only way your code gets back is it pushes to a /Copilot branch. So it's a very controlled mechanism, which if you think about it, of course that's how it's designed.
We're talking, and you're talking about like your local laptop VS Code Copilot versus being able to change environment variables.
No,
You're talking about the guy straight up at the bottom.
the coding agent is launching effectively in its own VM, what I'm guessing used to be code spaces, and it's working in there. And
We still got them. We probably just made it.
no, it's just like it's using it now. Just
We might just rename them to Copilot spaces. I don't know.
yeah. So it's using its own machine, and he doesn't have access to your repo, except to push to a branch called ./Copilot. So that's a pretty smart way to do it. It's almost like they thought through this.
Yeah, there's people way smarter than me in Redmond. And like frankly, this stuff, like we put on events like this virtually like monthly, and in the couple of weeks that we don't think about it, we come back, so they've already changed the material. They've added new features and they've updated all the materials we're working on.
It's hard to keep up.
And that's sometimes like one of the CSAs would be like, oh, you've got multi-agent stuff now. It's like, okay. So, but yeah, that makes sense. I mean, thinking about it as a concept of the Copilot is being spun up in its own, like VM helps me understand that it is segmented, right? Because it's not just sitting out there, it's in its own little contained. Yes.
Okay, what I asked it to do is to use a spreadsheet.
So just to clarify a little bit further on the Intra, your GitHub Copilot uses the GitHub identity, but it authenticates through Entra using SSO and back on Entra ID.
So-
But when you have the authentication, the containment of GitHub identity will be enforced. So you just use the Entra as an authentication mechanism to get new
Now
doors.
it's-
But when
now-
new doors, you have GitHub
Like basically.
security boundary
Now
that
you can
define
just-
your permissions and your access. So essentially, you get contained. So just to be
It
clear.
never came up with an answer, it just spun it.
And it's strictly enforced.
So it's
So it's different between authentication and authorization, right? Entra is the mechanism to authenticate into GitHub.
Yeah, this was all about this last item, like it's 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah, so this is not.
4 hours. Somebody's asking online.
It's a 4-hour lab.
How long do they get?
12 hours. So 12 hours from boot. So they've got until like 6 a.m.
Yeah, okay.
Which is kind of like one of the kind of unfortunate side effects of doing this.
Yeah.
So how the agent work is a workflow when you, do you want to talk about it?
Sure, try it. I'm glad you put mics for me, Mike. So, the way the GitHub Copilot agent works is you assign an issue. So if you're using GitHub for issue tracking, stories, in that UI, like where you're looking at a ticket, just like as you would assign a task to one of the developers, to yourself, to me, you can assign it to Copilot with just @Copilot. And that'll trigger pull requests or invoke an IDE command palette. That's crazy. The agent analyzes the task, looks at the code that it's going to be working on, and starts to kind of resolve and develop the feature. So I think we're all familiar with the concept of like, the better the user story, the easier it is for the developer. When you get a bad user story, you're like, I don't know what you want me to do. So it will also develop, work on the feature, and when it's functionally done, create a pull request to merge it back in. Which obviously, you, just like anyone else, you review, test, and kind of work through. So there you go. Copilot works in its own isolated GitHub Actions environment where it can explore the code base, make changes across multiple files, run build and tests, execute linters and other automated checks. So this would be defined in like your project files of what's required. Everyone loves a linter. PR creates, or the agent creates a PR with the implementation. You review it, and you can request modifications through comments. Agent responds to feedback and updates the implementation. So it's really just like working back and forth with someone on an open ticket. Go ahead.
Maybe this is something feature you may add, I don't know, but I'm just asking if that Copilot agent has access to teams, and let's say it didn't find exact, requirements on your board item, and then it can chat with you and say, hey,
I need you to fix this.
right, you actually, assign this, can I know more information? You can just chat and interact, and then fix it.
That would be
I mean,
great,
maybe
but
future feature, but
future feature, there would need to be a threshold of some sort of level of it understanding and thinking it has an approach, or
I mean, just like
a lack thereof, like I don't have enough information.
yeah,
I don't know if we have a mechanism for it to be like,
yeah,
because if I tell it like, hey, I would like to add rainbows and nothing else, it's gonna like,
yeah, it's good.
any AI agent's gonna take its best stab
It
at
has
what.
to do that way.
It's like, well, I think he might want Lisa Frank rainbow backgrounds for the entire application.
Correct, yeah.
And that may be like you were looking for. It just depends on what's gonna happen. But that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, it would act like another developer
There are
who would be
bridges
asking all
between-
those questions.
It's like the idea of it pinging the business analyst or the PM and being like, hey, this story's not good,
Oh, yeah.
then we're definitely all probably out of jobs.
You
Which
can-
is be hilarious to me.
Not with this, okay.
But, yeah, no, there are ways to reach in
Yeah.
to teams from this agent
Uh-huh.
for updates and notifications, but not right now for like, hey, I need clarification and feedback. I think it will complete a task,
Yeah.
issue that PR, and then in that review of like, does this achieve what we wanted, or actually it's not, this doesn't do what we expected, that's on us, you know, pretty bad explanation, here's the feedback, and we'll take it away and issue it. So.
Right now, there is no feature with Copilot where I can, if I have an OpenAI service that has a fine-tuned model, I can give it like an API key or no.
So, this one comes up a lot. You know, I have my own proprietary model that I would like to give access to GitHub Copilot. As of right now, that's not possible. For security reasons and because of the way that the GitHub infrastructure is built, or for GitHub Copilot, it is a global service, not something that like, so if as a large organization you have GitHub Copilot, you have hundreds of thousands of users even, you're still using GitHub's infrastructure, you're not using Azure infrastructure that gets tied to your tenant. So if you have like a Foundry model or something like that, like there is no concept of linking the two. I have found some mixed feedback within our documentation and in some conversations with certain industries about custom vetted models that are security hardened, like in the financial industry. But for right now, it's not a feature. We have people ask about it all the time, and we run into it's usually cybersecurity teams that are like, hey, like we need to know about the model. We're like, the model just exists. Go ahead.
Do you have different levels of agents? Like, one agent could be architect, another agent could be,
Yes.
I mean, different price.
Yes.
Yeah, you do?
We do,
I was thinking about it. You may be selling a different price.
Agentic.
Agent, yeah.
Agentic.
I have, since joining Microsoft, I have not stopped hearing the word agentic.
Agentic.
And I'm working on agentic solutions constantly. The way that
Is it Logic Apps?
it's actually, yes, it's a Power Automate flow. No, the way that I've seen it is you have the ability to create multiple agents. Like, I think you noticed it earlier, multiple agents that you can run. You can have multiple agents running, and you can define like their personas, what they care about, like how they should look at tasks. You're the front-end developer, you're a QA guy, and they all kind of work as independent like personas that approach it differently. So yes, there is a concept of having an enterprise architect, but you need to be specific and prescriptive in how you define that in their persona documents or that document. But yes.
So what is the hourly price of this AI developer?
With that, cheaper than all of us, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure.
Any other questions? Anyone have any trouble?
I'm not sure where it is right now.
So it's assigned, it's analyzed, code based on your code base and or changes across multiple file, build and run a test. It also requires review and iterate across all these files, and it works in its own isolated environment really. And
Lost the context?
so essentially, the key takeaway from this slide is a GitHub Copilot coding agent is aimed at an autonomous developer, and it's literally analyzing and running text as well, and iterate while you stay in control through the familiar GitHub workflow. So quickly read through that, and then moving on to the issue, assigning issue in Copilot, it's really simple to delegate work directly to GitHub Copilot, coding agent from github.com. So to begin, navigate to the main page of your repository, Git. From there, click on the issue tab to view all the open and existing issue, and then you open the specific issue you want to work on. This could be anything from fixing bugs, adding features, updating documentation, or handling backlog in Azure.
What if it's really simple?
So on the right side of the panel of the issue, locate the assignee sections. This is where you typically assign team members, and Copilot is available as an assigner option. So you can assign tasks and or issue to Copilot. And so essentially the workflow integrates naturally with GitHub existing issue management process, and you can delegate those tasks the same way you would with the team. And Copilot can handle the rest.
Don't have data simple.
Moving on to delegate from chat. So what this slide demonstrates is how you can delegate tasks directly to GitHub Copilot coding agent right within your Copilot chat in VS Code. So when you're working inside the Copilot chat, in the panel, you can assign tasks simply by describing what you want the agent to do, whether the task is fixing a bug or adding a new feature. Copilot analyzes the request and then determine whether or not it should take over as a coding agent, meaning that it will initiate a task in an isolated GitHub action environment rather than just offering suggestions. It's really doing the work for you. It connects to, like once you connect to Azure, creating resources, spinning up app services, key vault, and so on and so forth. Right? So by delegating from chat is especially useful when you're already in the NLP workflow. And Copilot interpret the intent, and then the agent takes responsibility and implement those changes. So with this approach, you stay within a context, doesn't switch context, so you can handle the work off directly where you're thinking about it, and you literally, context switching doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think going here personally, like an example of this is like developing a solution or an application. God, I don't remember what it was, but it was something for the radio. And I'm like, all right, if I need to start setting like app services to get this up and running, I don't want to do that. So I was like, hey, can you start setting up all the bicep and all the best practices, key vaults, and things that really need more bicep, and just create deployment scripts? And it stood up app services, key vaults, the networking configurations, and then building deployment scripts for me. And I didn't even like have it. I wasn't like, hey, put on your Azure hat. I just asked what I wanted. Because I was like, I'm gonna need this. I don't really feel like doing it. So it's really good at kind of what's next. But you know, thankfully it's not gonna try and write and it won't write my like deployment scripts and won't try and write like a React.js component on my code. Use PowerShell, or if I had to tell Terraform.
So, Copilot, GitHub Copilot is just one side, you know, you can custom. Oh, now do you need a charger?
So customizing Copilot, we've kind of gone over a bunch of different like anecdotes and ways that like how to change how it communicates. I think this is really more about like how developers and teams can tailor GitHub Copilot to like their own workflows, coding standards, and it's really about those checked-in instructions that you want shared kind of across an organization, across a team, or like more strictly enforced for an application as it grows. it's not a one-size-fits-all assistant by any means. It's really I'd say if you gave like each of our copilots like a personality test, they'd probably all be very different, just in how we talk to them. But it's extremely important for maintaining consistency. So like we've talked about, these models are not deployed, they're not long-living, they are ephemeral, and they only have the context of which you give them. That being said, it's like, if Tiago opens up Copilot and asks for an app that does X, Y, and Z, and I do it as well on my own machine, and we don't have a set of common standards or organizational like requirements, they will be different. There will be slight differences in, even if you don't specify the language, it may interpret different libraries, different versions of NumPy. So it's kind of like maintaining that like .agents file, or I think it's the GitHub customizations file in Markdown is kind of like what you get your development teams all centered around. What organizationally is important. Similar to almost like using Azure policies that prevent deploying anything with like an open endpoint, or everything else has to have tags. You can also tell to use less emojis and be less enthusiastic if you need to. But it's really about, this section is really about kind of how you can customize Copilot. Let's see what we got on the next slide. We're just talking. Yeah. So you can customize chat in Visual Studio Code to match your coding practices and project requirements. Set up persistent configurations and automatically apply your preferred context, tools, and guidelines to every conversation. Saves time and ensures consistent responses without any providing the same information in each text. So I'm sure we've all had different conversations with ChatGPT, Copilot, any of them where you're like, all right, I need to set the scene. This is what I'm going to ask a question. I want you to put your image in your mouth. This is what allows you to just pick up and continue a conversation, knowing that it's the architect that you're talking to, it's the back-end developer that you're talking to, from the lens of which Copilot is interacting. But also at the same time, enforces consistency between your team all using the same tool, different ways, but adhering to the same kind of standards, guidelines, and constraints. Yeah, Copilot instructions.md. So it exists under the GitHub file where you also find like your workflows. It's just a markdown file. You can set custom instructions, define reasonable rules for coding. I feel like I'm repeating myself guys, I'm sorry. Help enforce coding practices, tech preferences. So it's like, please don't use Scala. It's like commit, PR guidelines, styles, descriptions, and structures, code review rules. Anything really is like, here's how I want us to continue to operate as a development team. Kind of gives you a consistent way. And because it exists in the repository, it's automatically checked out. If anyone clones or runs the code on their machine, they can be iterated and improved over time, but it ensures that everyone's machine is behaving the same way.
This is not some just extra little, oh, by the way, here's this little file. This might be one of the most important things you'll hear all night in terms of getting what you want out of your agent. And so if you're a business user and you say, I always use Neo4j.s as my graph database, then you put that in this box. Otherwise, you'll end up with some other random open source repo in your code that you didn't realize. If you have specific things that you do with your Excel files and you're in finance, and you want to use a certain template to start every time, you put that in this document. If you like to be talked to in pirate voice only, you put that in this document, and it will start off with and every time. Annoying as can be. And if you're like me and you're like, please stop telling me how awesome I am. Be a little more critical. I need you to constantly critique things and test my ideas. Put that in here. It will fundamentally change the personality of your agent and give it guardrails. But remember, it is not deterministic. It is non-deterministic, meaning it'll sometimes do everything all at once. And you just need to build that thought process into your risk management, into your processes, into your rules, into your GitHub process, so that those things are part of that process.
This is applicable even when I mention Copilot on GitHub Azure or PR, right? These are
successfully compared hands on all.
That is correct.
Can you say the question again? I'm not sure.
I think the question is if he's chatting with the GitHub Copilot agent on GitHub.com, is this being respected at the team level? It depends if you're talking about going into that repository, but if you're asking general questions, then there's that
It's
access.
an issue on the repo.
It's your IDE. And if you're in a corporate repo, it pulled down the one from the corporate repo copy, or whatever was in the repo. It may be corporate, or it may be your team's, or it may be your personal.
But to answer your question, I think you're asking about is if using the Copilot agent about issues in PR on GitHub.com, whether or not it's considering these.
If you're doing it from your IDE for a repo you checked out.
He's not talking about from his IDE though.
The com, I'm talking about the com.
Okay, no. Because it doesn't know that.
But it has access to the.
But if I tell it, but if he's saying if he tells it to go in and do something for that repository, it should take it. If it's in the repo, you can tell it to go to. Because otherwise, if I'm asking questions about, more in general, we have say 50 different repos and 40 different types of Copilot instructions. It's too high level right there for it to be able to interpret all of them in string.
So you checked it out of your corporate repo. You did some work, and now you're going to check it into a .com repo. Is that the question?
Everything is on GitHub.
Yeah. So
I don't know for sure.
So it's all on GitHub.com or the Azure version of it or whatever. So this is going to govern your repo. And so wherever you're saving stuff and whatever you're doing and working, this is going to govern that behavior while that file is in the open Azure repo. And yes, even if you save out to your public GitHub.com account, yes, it's going to try to behave according to that, but because it's non-deterministic and some of those options won't be there, it's a little scary. I don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah, because if the file's there and it's doing, and it's, because Copilot, GitHub Copilot, not Copilot, GitHub Copilot is intentionally going to look for those hidden folders that dictate how it should behave first.
I'm double checking because people say that it even respects Cloud.md, it respects even agents.md, so
it probably does. It genuinely,
Yeah, so now you're asking, I think, a different question, which is what if I have multiple formats of top-level guideline files? And the honest question is, it's a little scary. You should be careful because it could take pieces from all of them.
well, if you have a repo that you've worked with, like Cursor or Claude, and you've got instructions for that, and you've got a document that is for GitHub Copilot, if you have differing instructions in those 3 documents, that's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But I think that's the intent of what I shared earlier of agents.md, right? Is it should be kind of like an MCP server with agnostic to the AI that's interpreting it. It's just a list of instructions of how it should behave.
I have been switching this into just agents.md, but because you're mentioning specifically Copilot instructions, that's what's good. But I have been.
Yeah, I think
agents.md.
This class doesn't yet know what agents.md is. So you're ahead of the class.
As long as you have that .github folder in your repo on github.com, it's going to inspect that. Yeah, the root one, right? Like if you have multiple nested ones in different places, there is an override mechanism. Starts with the root and then keeps going down. If you have conflicting one, then the overridden one takes it.
I also don't know why you would ever use anything other than GitHub Copilot. I don't know why, other than GitHub Copilot.
The label comments on it, so it's that.
Those .md file, there's a limit to it. You overload it, it goes crazy. It's like,
That is true.
Still have to respect the context with it.
right. But no overloading, make it so quick and fat, and it's just not gonna be able to go through it every time and reread it, right?
The flip side is, if you have management that's scared of AI development, this is one of the control mechanisms you have, and it's also a great way to begin to share best practices, because as you commit things back up, sometimes through here, sometimes through agent files, then you can start to, I know some teams actually have a grooming of, weekly they will sit down and say, what were the new lines added to Claude.md or the agents.md, and they'll say, ooh, I like that rule, let's add that. Or, you're actually technically correct, but that's not how we do it here at Big Oil Company. We actually do Terraform instead. So, here's your rule for that. And I'm so glad we had this conversation because now you're aware of that standard. That wasn't part of our onboarding. I got to go back and fix that. So it's a great way to share those best practices across teams or even within a team.
Oh, and on the flip side of kind of like that can be a collaborative document to see like how different teams are addressing certain things. Because it is a great example of like this team's has far more success. Like let's compare quite literal nodes. I've also had customers that want to be ensured that those GitHub instructions and requirements do not change. So we've looked into kind of some scripts and automations that like, even if the changes are made to the GitHub Copilot MD files or any of the others, they're overwritten and they go back to like a corporate, because guys, we have corporate clients. They want them to, they don't want things to change because it's been signed off by cyber and things like that. So it's a way to kind of enforce consistency from a level of security and peace of mind for cybersecurity folks sometimes, if it's done right.
So next, I want to go ahead and discuss the prompt file.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to prompt files. Prompt files are reusable standalone prompts in Markdown, just like everything else at this point, that can be run directly in chat for repeatable dev tasks. They let you add task-specific context and guidelines that can be combined with custom instructions for consistency. They're useful for common coding tasks, e.g. scaffolding, components, APIs, tests, code reviews, quality, security, performance, step-by-step guides for complex workflows or project patterns, generating implementation plans, designs or migration strategies. This is the concept of just adding files to your conversation with the prompt, right?
So literally, the main point here is help maintain repeatability, consistency, and alignment. This is one of the two.
And like the way that I've used prompt files is giving it a bunch of BRDs and other documents and architecture diagrams that I've been given, and ask it to either poke holes to make sure that the application or the code base I'm looking at adheres to them, where there's drift, and or if it needs to refactor to align to them. I've also asked it to generate those documents for me from existing code bases or legacy code bases for migrations, modernizations. I think we've all seen code bases where they're like, it works, we haven't updated it in 12 years, we're scared to reboot the server. This is a good way to kind of get information out of an existing code base to get an understanding of its architecture and kind of start planning for modernization. I think that'll be a whole conversation. Chat notes. I think we touched on this a little bit. We've got ask. So get direct answers or explanations to your questions. Like, I don't actually know. I don't really ask them a lot of things. I end up asking it questions like, does this adhere to best practices? What are the best practices or common libraries used with X, Y, and Z? I ask it to explain code a lot if I haven't seen it before.
If you're using a really advanced model, it can be very proactive. And instead of answering your question, it'll just go start developing the thing. It'll make a decision and go develop. So ask is a safe way to say, hey, I just want to talk about this for a second.
Yeah,
Don't develop any
I just want to talk.
Yes, we cannot hear you.
Did you get muted again?
No, it's.
Oh, we did. Are we writing audio there? We should go through there.
I'll just back.
It's working.
What is it?
The room mic is working.
That is working?
Yeah.
But other people saying that they,
It's working.
so it's over the model.
Okay, so there's gonna be caveats in this one. So, within GitHub Copilot, you have the ability to, first of all, your admin has the ability to configure which models are enabled, allowed, or made available to you within the UI. But that being said, the other caveat is this list is constantly growing and changing. We are adding new models. I think when Grok hit, or DeepSeek hit, they had it out in Foundry in like a week and a half. It's not in Copilot yet for that. So it's generally centrally governed by the GitHub administrator, having to decide which models that they want you to use. There is specific reasons for this. Maybe their security team has gone through and done some sort of whatever they do, make feel better about Claude Opus or not, or they have agreements with Claude and they want to primarily use those security vendors. Different models do have different costs. As you can see, you've got 0x, 1x. This is a relatively older one because I think with Claude Opus 4.5 is like 0.33.
3x, like.
Yeah, it's 0.3. It's like 1/3 the cost of Claude. Or Haiku, sorry. Opus is the one that's more expensive. So I think we've all kind of, you can swap between them at any time. It's not a situation where if you start working with ChatGPT Codex and you switch to Opus, it's gonna like lose its mind and you have to start over and try to get it to understand where you were. How it behaves, and more importantly, like some models are very, very proactive in how they take things. You can give a few words and it's like, all right, I'm gonna get started, and it will just keep going. Some of them will eventually work themselves into a loop. It's pretty strange, but you can swap them out at any time.
So essentially, the available model is dictated by your GitHub administrator, and you can only pick the one that those drop down. So just one or two.
Yeah, it creates some confusion for us because they give us just like anything in preview. So I'm like, oh, you want to see this thing?
Yeah. So with that, I'd like to move forward to the DevOps, and Sean, you're up. 2 more slides, and then we're done with the slide deck, and you guys can hash out the lab.
Yeah, anybody have any like lab problems or questions before we start next one?
Go ahead, Sean.
You good?
Alrighty, well, so,
Question over there?
actions, GitHub Actions. So essentially, it's just a built-in automation system that lets you run workflows, so things like builds or testing, deployments, in response to your any actions or any events in your GitHub repository, so anything like pushes, pulls, you can set triggers and whatnot. So it's, like I said earlier, built directly into GitHub, so people or teams, they can automate their building, testing, deployments without needing any external CI/CD tools. And it's made using, I think, YAML?
YAML workflow.
Yeah, YAML workflow, and you can test your container builds, you can do security scanning, any infrastructure deployment, anything like that. So the workflows, I think they're GitHub hosted or self-hosted runners, either or. So you don't have to go through the pain of any externals or extra servers to automate your DevOps tasks. And overall, Actions is flexible, fully integrated platform, and it helps you automate and standardize your development and deployment. Automate Azure. So applications can be deployed on, I think, Azure App Service, on any trigger, so push, pull request is merged, or even on like a scheduled trigger. So if you've got, basically you just got a consistent CI/CD pipeline with just a bit of effort. And you can set this up quickly with your starter templates or using GitHub Copilot. And it supports a bunch of common languages like Python, Node.js, other stuff. So your sensitive info, like your Azure creds, or maybe your secrets, your environment variables, or other goodies you might not want getting out. They're going to be stored securely on your GitHub secrets. And each deployment is fully traceable through your actions in Azure's Deployment Center. And after deployment, you can monitor using your application insights. So essentially Actions enables secure and replicable end-to-end automation for Azure deployments.
So, but I'd like to add the trigger to the workflow include push. So the trigger to the workflow run include push, pull request, as Sean was saying earlier, and schedule run through cron job, cron expressions. And all of these are really well-defined in YAML file, like Sean was saying, and we saw that under GitHub and workflow structure here. And you know, the key takeaway from this is that it's letting you build powerful automation from simple testable CI/CD pipeline using a clean version YAML file alongside with the automation builder. So that's it. That's a wrap. So in summary, we went over GitHub Copilot and as well as some of the multiple IDE, VS Code, NeoVim, Cursor, and or JetBrains, right? And then we also covered the coding agent capability where it's autonomously implement tasks, modify the code, as well as open pull request. And then you can customize Copilot with custom instruction. We talked about the Copilot instruction file and then maybe an agent file later. Prompt file as well as the different chat mode in the language with different language model that allow you to tailor your Copilot practice a specific scenario. Right? So and together it's your companion AI companion program. So that's in a nutshell. And who got the lab finished? I'm just curious. Almost. Wow, you're an overachiever, young lady.
They never had any problems.
Oh wow.
Watch out, they're coming
I
for
mean,
us.
that's awesome. And we have so many awesome proctors in here that I'm just like stuck helping out.
So what we did today is just the tiniest little peek into what is possible here, right?
We're just warming up.
And so let's play a little game here called I Wonder If I Can. Do you think that AI could create your management meeting slides with all your metrics from your CRM or your finance system, make them beautiful? Of course. Speak up.
Pardon, sorry. If I may be honest, I do think possibly in the future AI may be able to do that. Here's the thing. In my personal opinion, please do not take this with a grain of salt. I think that there's something special about human-made things that could be enhanced with AI, not exactly replaced. I think that they could work hand in hand together because AI is a tool. Yes, maybe a companion in some terms, but I personally believe that with just maybe a touch of AI to refine those, and most of it being human-made, it could be something else, something spectacular even.
Some things are creativity.
Yes, we can't replace it, we can enhance it. That's my opinion.
All right, I love it.
Thank you.
So if you go into Copilot in PowerPoint or in Excel and say, create my board deck, it's going to choke. And that's not a Copilot problem. That's a structured problem. It can't grok all of that. It needs you to break that down. What is a board slide? What types of information do you normally put in it? What sorts of charts do you like in your board slide? If you give it an old set of board slides and say, our board slides always follow this template. This information comes from this system, this information comes from this system, it'll actually do a pretty good job. But if it doesn't know what your corporate colors are, and it doesn't know what your logo looks like, it's just gonna kind of choke. So think about that agent, which is what it is, just like you would think about a new employee. It's a new employee that acts like a 4-year-old, so they'll do what you tell them most of the time, but that they know literally every piece of knowledge in the world, except the stuff inside your company. It probably doesn't know that because it hasn't been out on the public internet and it hasn't been trained on that. So you may have to, if you've got an internal system, you may have to point it to your CRM system or your ERP or something, make sure it has credentials to access that. But if you are an old Power BI person or some sort of BI person, nowadays, you don't have to do that anymore. You just tell it what you want, and it'll go create it. If you have an example, it makes it even easier, and you'll just be blown away. So tell it what you want. Don't tell it how to do it. Don't tell it. Start with the outcome you want, and you'll often be stunned. And every week, it seems like we have a new model that comes out that's even more capable. Opus 4.5 is mind-blowing. I think it's near human level, if not beyond.
Only thing you don't want AI to touch is your financial reporting, and it may do a lot of crazy stuff,
But it can read it.
It could read it.
If you need to create reports and used to, you had to download and massage and set up.
It can get creative with the numbers. It can.
It can. The more recent models, they've done a lot to.
Sure. Yeah. They may have some preventative thing, but it is.
Yeah, the hallucinations
able to create
have largely been
especially with the
tamped down
numbers
in the latest models, and you can control that through temperature.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you slide that temperature all the way to the left, it'll get really boring and not very creative, but it will have a very low likelihood of hallucination.
Yeah, we tried to, for example, add AI tool into one of our issue tracking system, and we could actually search all those stuff. For some stuff, it always makes up numbers in terms of issue numbers. Like it doesn't know that issue doesn't exist at all. It just makes up because it just sees, okay, this is one number.
That fits the pattern.
Yeah, it fixes and it puts numbers in between which doesn't exist.
But when was that?
Huh?
When was that?
Oh, it's been happening.
Recently?
Recently, yeah.
Okay.
Which LLM are you using?
Huh?
Which LLM are you using?
I don't remember which LLM that was used for that purpose. I'm pretty sure it's OpenAI something. Yeah, one of those.
Okay.
Yeah. But it made up a lot of numbers because it couldn't. Those numbers is very difficult to do. That I was actually suggesting to take all the numbers and use some kind of weights on all these numbers and then feed it such a way that it creates all those vectors and then puts that in relation with the issues.
Or you could just
and then it couldn't make up all those numbers and it'll go just right there and brings up. I'm saying, sorry, you were saying something.
You're engineering a lot of cool stuff just to get it to
get it right, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Think about it, what is LLM trained on?
Well, your data, of course.
No, I mean, like in general, what is LLM or ChatGPT trained on? Do you control in short, why is hallucination happening?
Yeah, you see, why hallucination happens, and that's the one question. Why hallucination does not happen is also another thing. Like these LLMs, they don't, or AI doesn't hallucinate words that doesn't exist, especially English, because you are actually giving weights on those words, right? You're not giving weights on those letters. I don't know, maybe internally they might be doing that too, but it doesn't hallucinate words. If you want to prevent hallucination, I guess you need to give weights on things that actually acts like a word. Like for example, in this case, issues, probably you need to give weights on the issue number as a not as a number, but as a word.
Well, we don't have control of the weights. The weights
Yes.
are controlled by the model.
Model, yeah, but when you are programming, it needs to be done such a way that you give weights on these words, numbers
That
as
is
words
where-
rather than.
That's what I'm gonna get to, is you need to customize, because under the.
You have to customize.
I don't.
That's what exactly I was saying.
Yeah.
To, how to fit your solution depends on how you actually give all these,
And
fit
you
everything
always
together.
test, build in observability mechanisms.
Mechanism.
As well as train
Correct.
with your own data. In short, the large LLM or train a vast amount of data. Is that data relevant to your use case? Probably not. That's hallucination happening.
Yeah, there are various reasons that it happens.
It's a complex conversation.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons why it hallucinates numbers in between, because if you don't give weights, it will definitely hallucinate. It will make up some numbers, because you are actually giving weights on digits rather than the word, the numbers. I mean, that's my guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. Part of that mysterious black box.
Yeah.
So anybody else in lab problem, let us know. Right now we're on lab. How far do y'all get?
We have 4.
So it's still processing. Okay, so it's, that's it.
No, it's not processing. It's generated the app. Now we just need to connect it to Azure
AI to get.
to get the real.
Scaffold.
Generate a lot of logic, the requirements.
No, it's not really done yet.
That's the.
Not yet. Right now, it's just giving you the web like a default decoy.
Yes.
Then really,
But that's weird because the prompt and the requirements all in files that don't have anything related to login. His prompt, the same prompt, generated the page without login. I generated login page, and this example also shows the login page.
Maybe this is step. I've done that myself.